In this video, I'm going to be talking about something that rarely gets discussed, and that is sex after pregnancy loss. Now, pregnancy loss itself doesn't get talked about enough, and when we do, we talk about grief, we talk about trying again, but the silence around intimacy remains, and yet for so many couples, this silence is where pain lingers the longest. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, or if you are new here, I'm Dr. Holly, sex and relationship therapist, and if you are watching this video when it airs, that means it is October 15th, which is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. Therefore, today I want to open a conversation that feels both deeply personal and incredibly necessary. What happens to sex and intimacy after pregnancy loss, and how can we begin to heal? Because it's not just about whether your body is ready, it's about whether your heart, your mind, and your relationship are ready too. In this video, I'll share what the research tells us, what I've seen in my practice, and yes, my own story of loss and recovery. My hope is that you'll leave not only with insight, but with a sense of hope and possibility, because intimacy doesn't end with loss, it just looks different for a while. And make sure that you stick around until the end, because I'm going to share with you 10 practical tips that you can start using today to gently rebuild intimacy with your partner, even if sex feels impossible right now. Let's start with the bigger picture. Pregnancy loss is more common than most people realize. The March of Dimes estimates that about 10 to 20% of known pregnancies end in miscarriage, and some studies suggest that the number might be even closer to 30%. The International Society for Sexual Medicine notes that as many as 1 in 4 women will experience pregnancy loss in their lifetime. So, with how common it is, why does it still feel so isolating? Well, because we don't talk about it, and especially we don't talk about what happens after. Couples are left to navigate not only the heartbreak, but also the silence in their bedrooms. Research from the Couples and Sexual Health Laboratory found that couples who had experienced a recent loss reported lower sexual satisfaction than those without a loss. Notably, their actual frequency of sex didn't change, but what was different was how they felt about it. The intimacy, the connection, and the pleasure were all harder to access, and that is where the healing really needs to happen. Often, the first question that couples ask is, when can we have sex again? Now, the answer depends on your body, the type of loss, and any medical procedures you've had. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists generally recommends waiting at least 1 to 2 weeks before inserting anything into the vagina after loss to reduce infection risk. If you had a procedure like a D&C, your doctor may ask you to wait longer. Bleeding typically lasts about a week and sometimes longer, and even though ovulation can happen as soon as 2 weeks after miscarriage, that doesn't mean that your body or your heart are ready. So the physical answer might be a couple of weeks, but the emotional answer might be entirely different. And that leads us into the real heart of today's conversation: the emotional and relational impact. Grief after pregnancy loss is not linear. Some days you'll feel like you're moving forward, and other days you'll feel like you've just been hit with a tidal wave out of nowhere. And when two people are grieving in two different ways, that's when intimacy can feel the most fragile. Maybe one partner needs to talk about it constantly in order to heal, while the other partner needs silence or shuts down. Maybe one longs for physical closeness while the other one can't stand to be touched. Sometimes sex becomes a way to feel close again, and other times it feels like the last thing in the world that you want to do. Now, this match is normal, but if spoken, it can quietly push couples further apart. Add in guilt, shame, or fear of another loss, and sex can start to feel risky and even more painful as you try to approach it. On the flip side, I've also seen couples find deeper closeness through shared grief, as this shared sorrow can often turn into shared closeness and vulnerability. The key difference is communication. Even small check-ins like, "How are you feeling today?" can keep that thread of connection alive, even when finding the right words can feel impossible. Research also shows that pregnancy loss can directly impact sexual desire. Studies consistently show that after pregnancy loss, sexual satisfaction decreases, but sexual frequency doesn't necessarily change. And what does this mean? Well, this means that couples might be having sex, but it doesn't feel the same. And when you look at the reasons, it makes sense why. For one, grief and anxiety can creep in during moments of intimacy, making desire completely disappear. Number two, hormonal shifts may cause vaginal dryness or changes in arousal. Number three, body image struggles, or how we feel about our bodies when they aren't doing the thing that we think that they are supposed to be able to do, can leave us feeling disconnected from ourselves. And four, often the pregnant partner experiences lower desire than the non-pregnant partner post-loss. This gap can create tension unless it's named, because that way it helps it to be understood. And at its core, it's not about low libido, it's about grief, and grief changes how we're able to access pleasure. This is where it gets personal. I remember the excitement that we had that day. I took a home pregnancy test and it was positive. I called one of my mom friends crying to make sure that I was reading it right, and I felt like we were so lucky that it was so easy, and this was definitely a honeymoon baby. My husband wasn't home, so when he got home, I surprised him with a gift, and he assumed it was in honor of his recent promotion, but he opened it up to see a tiny pair of baby shoes. He was so excited to be a dad again, and a couple weeks later, I had intense pain on my right side. I didn't know what to do. We had just gotten married and there was an issue with the paperwork, so I wasn't on my partner's insurance just yet. So I was essentially uninsured and had no doctor. I didn't think that I could afford to take time off work, but my husband encouraged us to go to the hospital anyway. After running some tests, they said nothing was wrong, and I was probably just experiencing some discomfort from implantation, despite me being doubled over in pain and cramping. So we went home and we went to bed, and the phone kept ringing all night, and I ignored it because I didn't know the number, but then my husband's phone started ringing. It was the hospital, and they needed us to come back immediately. It turns out that after looking at my ultrasound again, the pregnancy was ectopic, meaning that the pregnancy was trying to implant in the fallopian tube, and the only option to save my fallopian tube, to give us a chance to get pregnant again and potentially save my life, was to terminate the pregnancy. I immediately broke down. They gave us a few minutes while they got the medication ready to process that we were going to have to terminate what we had wanted so badly. We held each other and we cried, and the nurse came in and gave me a shot in each arm, and it was done. In that moment, all of our excitement was lost. And for context, this was right after overturning Roe v. Wade, which means that along with my grief was a feeling of gratitude and relief that we lived in a state in which abortion was safe and accessible, because yes, abortion is the treatment for ectopic pregnancy, and it potentially saved my life. After that, I self-medicated in the bathtub for a week, and I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't go to work. I knew I wasn't going to be a good therapist that week, and I just kept to myself. My husband was there and was supportive, but he was grieving too, and there was nothing that anyone could do for me at that time. We had to wait for 3 months for the medication to get out of my system before we could try again. But even though we were hopeful that we could get pregnant, we were also terrified, and the fear of something else bad happening or us potentially losing another baby wasn't very sexy. Eventually, we were able to get through it together, and we welcomed our rainbow baby, but I will never forget how hard intimacy was at that time. So here's what I want you to know. It's completely normal for sex to feel different after loss. You're not broken, your relationship isn't doomed, and intimacy doesn't have to mean intercourse. It can mean cuddling on the couch, holding hands, kissing, exploring touch, or even just having really deep, vulnerable conversations. These acts release oxytocin, reduce stress, and can rebuild trust at a really vulnerable time in your lives. Think of it as on a spectrum. Maybe today intimacy looks like lying together in silence, maybe tomorrow it's kissing, and eventually it might be sex again. There is no timeline and there are no shoulds in this process. Now let's get into the part that I promised, practical tools that you can use right now. Here are 10 ways to rebuild intimacy after pregnancy loss. Number 1, communicate openly. Even if it feels awkward to try I feel statements instead of you never statements. Number 2, validate different timelines. You might feel ready, but your partner might not, or vice versa, and that's okay. Number 3, prioritize non-sexual intimacy, like cuddling, taking a bath together, long walks, or watching a favorite movie together. Number 4, reintroduce touch slowly. Start with non-sexual touch and gradually explore more as both your head, heart, and body feel up for it. Number 5, focus on pleasure, not performance. Let go of the pressure to orgasm, to have a baby, or to get back to normal, and instead just focus on being together. Number 6, ground yourself when fear and anxieties come up. Try and take a breath, pause, and name the fear, and mindfulness techniques can help. Number 7, check in with your doctor, especially if you had complications or procedures. Number 8, use contraception if you're not ready for pregnancy because ovulation can return quickly. Number 9, lean on support networks like friends, family, and your partner. Also, organizations such as Share Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support, the Compassionate Friends, or Climb offer peer support, and I will link those in the description below. Talking to others who have walked a similar path can help you to reduce isolation and realize that you're not alone in this. And number 10, consider therapy. Therapies like EMDR can help support you with trauma recovery, and therapies like EFT or emotionally focused therapy can help to connect with your partner and go through the grief together. And remember, therapy isn't a weakness, it's just a way to receive support. Here is the most important thing that I want you to remember. Intimacy after loss isn't about getting back to where you were before. It's about creating something new. Grief changes us, but it doesn't have to erase our capacity for connection, tenderness, and pleasure. You deserve intimacy that feels safe, comforting, and real, and that doesn't happen on a timeline. It happens when your body, your heart, and your relationship are ready. Pregnancy loss is devastating, and its impact ripples through every part of life, including sex. But your sexuality doesn't have to be lost forever. With compassion, communication, and support, intimacy can become not just possible again, but also incredibly healing. Thank you for being here, for listening, for hearing my story, and for holding space for this conversation. If this video resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe so you won't miss the next conversation we'll have together. And if you feel called to share your story, please do so in the comments so we can lean on and learn from each other. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and remember, you deserve a healthy, happy, and pleasurable life.